somebody brought up that they did move a CFL start time because of the Raptors game in the playoffs, if you remember. So would it be worthwhile to move the Banjo Bowl because of the U.S. Open final?
That's such a... I feel like my heart's going two ways right now, but I'm going to say you just keep the Banjo Bowl time because... I'm speechless because I don't even know what to say. Like,
there were people in Winnipeg on
Say what you're thinking.
There were people in Winnipeg on social media this morning, like, preaching to the Bombers, like, can you change this time for the game?
You've heard it too.
I think about that pilgrimage, that annual pilgrimage from Saskatchewan to Manitoba for the Banjo Bowl, and those people, the reason that game is 3 p.m. Central Time is so
people
they can drive home after the game, right? Also moving it to Saturday so they have a bit of a hangover day on Sunday. Mm-hmm. I always like that move.
I think this is one of those times where you just have to separate yourself and be like, what do I love more? And you watch one. And you know what? You look deep and you make a choice, okay? Exactly. You just make a decision.
Or you stay off social media and you get that PVR burn.
I've been thinking about that, but I'm like, I don't think I can be on social media covering the Banjo Bowl and not seeing something about Bianca. Like,
you got to use Twitter lists. That's the key.
Yeah,
Focus.
There's so many hacks.
Well, I'll also say this, however, as I am just updating our poll or checking the update on our poll, and I'll get to that in a second. But Bianca Andreescu, sorry to say, just became somewhat in the national conscience when she won the Rogers Cup in Montreal over
I would go
Serena.
back to Indian Wells.
For everybody? I'm not saying your radar. I'm talking about the national radar.
I agree. I'm just saying that's when the seed was planted.
Fair enough.
Indian Wells, and then it blossomed, and now it's just taking over.
But that's still less than a year, where the Raptors in the league final had been brewing for 24 years. Yeah. So there's a little of a difference here. Plus, there's 3 games in the CFL on Saturday, and they're all scheduled. Ding, ding, ding. I'm calling it football day in Canada. Yeah. They're not going to move a kickoff time for a tennis game that nobody cared about 2 weeks ago.
But Rod,
that's my point.
Further to one of your points, I was actually trying to wrap my mind over what has been a bigger deal this year. If she wins the U.S. Open final or if the Raptors win. I'm like, I don't know how to choose the winner there, but like to me, I'm choosing Bianca because it's a singular sport. She's female. She's Canadian. It's such a huge stage. I'm not saying the NBA isn't a big stage, but to me, it just feels more like
an argument can be made.
You know,
she just made it.
Yeah. Well, both. It's like that little bit of Canadiana infiltrating American culture, right? The U.S. Open, the NBA Finals. Like, I don't know anything more American than the NBA Finals.
And also beating Serena, if she did it. Like, Serena is just such an icon in all of sports. You know?
Think of it, a 19-year-old Canadian could knock Serena
the 37-year-old greatest female athlete ever.
Like, I'm getting so many goosebumps right now. Look at this. Look at this.
Where does Lou Marsh? Where does that factor into this? Right,
the voting.
Yeah, like if she beats.
Well,
Serena,
Claire's just saying if you had a vote, you'd vote for Bianca. Is that only if she wins, though?
That if she wins, I'm going with Bianca, and
because she may
it's
not.
Nothing against the Raptors because I think that was such a huge moment too. But I have to choose one, and I'm going to choose Bianca.
And that's Canada's male athlete of the year. Too, let's not forget, because there's a female athlete of the year, and the Lou Marsh is for the male athlete of the year, isn't it? Not just athlete of the year.
Yeah, Lou Marsh is just one.
Okay,
Brooke Anderson maybe in there,
right?
Yeah. Brooke won it. I thought. Did Brooke win it last year?
Well, the ratings will, of course, absolutely she did.
I'm gonna have to look that
up. But the ratings will dictate, and I think the Banjo Bowl. I don't know. I can't even make a prediction on that. I don't know. Which, by the way, back to our daily poll question, the Capital Auto Mall Universal Collision Center. What is Canada's game of the week in the CFL? This is wild. 87% of respondents are saying it's Saskatchewan at Winnipeg. 11% saying Calgary at Edmonton. And that game doesn't even have a name. Ours at least has a name. The Banjo Bowl.
Thanks, Troy Westwood.
Thanks to Westy.
Can I actually just mention that I asked a couple of the players, including Cody and Marcus this week, if they knew why it was called the Banjo Bowl. None of them did. And so I told them, like, well, Troy Westwood, a kicker for the Bombers back in, I don't know, what was it, the 90s?
Yep.
Called Saskatchewan fans a whole bunch of banjo
early 2000s.
Inbreds. Okay, I didn't know when it was. And they looked at me like this. They were just like, banjo picking inbreds, like,
oh, you're gonna stoke that fire again?
I know. And then I asked Marcus what he thought, Marcus Thigpen, of, and this is on the record, of Winnipeg fans, and he said, I truly think they're the most disrespectful in the CFL.
Wow.
I know, and he did not shy away.
Was this on camera?
Yes, that's what I said. It was on the record. I ran it. I thought, wow. But I don't think, you know how you do those little quotes afterwards and you put a picture? Don't use that. Don't make that my quote, okay? No, don't. Don't make that one, okay?
The memes.
Yeah,
okay.
What I know
meme
for
me on
sure
that.
is the vitriol spewed by Bomber Nation is times 10 when it's directed at this province.
Yeah.
If it's Calgary or BC or Montreal or the Ticats, it's nowhere near that interprovincial rivalry. So maybe that's part of why Marcus Thigpen feels that way. But
Well, and by the way, furthermore,
Cody was nice. Cody was nice.
Second place in the polls, Calgary to Edmonton with 12%. 1% of the votes, BC at Montreal and Toronto at Ottawa, just so you know. The Battle of Ontario, that as far as our viewers and respondents go, don't really care. But the other thing, Darren, too, is the Winnipeg fans, I've gone on record as hoping they win a Grey Cup this year. It's time for the drought to end. It's time for the curse to end. They've done it the right way. I like O'Shea. I like Kyle Walters. Obviously, I love Paul LaPolice and Richie Hall. Matt Nichols has proven enough to me. But now the bad stuff's happened. And it's not karma necessarily, but their adversity maybe. It's really hit them hard.
I think it's good, all things considered, it's good that this adversity hit them now and not in October and November.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully Matt Nichols, for the Blue Bombers' sake, will be healthy and ready to go for the playoffs. I believe they'll need him. I think Chris Streveler is a very good quarterback. I think he's like Cody Fajardo 2 years ago, showing things, but still needs to grow for a couple more years. I'm a huge fan of Cody Fajardo. I think he's the next star quarterback in this league. Andrew Harris, the 2-game suspension, that factors into the Lou Marsh conversation as well. But the injuries have piled up. You know, Lucky Whitehead out for the Banjo Bowl. Jackson Jeffcoat has been a big hit. Darvin Adams, they were without him for a month. He's back. There's a lot of factors here. I think this is a good adversity stretch for Winnipeg. But this game, it's not just number 1 versus number 2 in the West. The season series is on the line. Calgary's making a push. Edmonton appears to be falling off a little bit. I don't expect them to beat Calgary. This West Division is going to be so tight in a month from now. Winnipeg needs to have a season series, at least have the season series alive for that third meeting in October.
Yeah.
I like what you said about this is the best time to face the adversity, because I always think getting Chris Streveler some, like, I'm going to call it confidence reps, just knowing what it's like to be in the game, in a game that matters. Augustine getting in there, that is going to do them so much good in the long run for when they're in the playoffs, when they're in those moments where they sometimes need a different look, and getting a player in there who just has that experience. It's just going to be huge.
Well, and that's been a big part of the Chris Streveler conversation in Winnipeg, is that he's somebody who started 2 games in his rookie season, started 4 games in his rookie season, 3 to start the year as Nichols was hurt. But he's a quarterback. He doesn't hold the clipboard. He's holding a football on the sidelines and his helmet's on always. He's a guy that touches the ball every game, nearly every quarter, runs that wedge package, that short yardage better than anybody in the CFL today. And I think that leads to the confidence. He's not somebody that's hoping for an opportunity. The confidence now is, you need to lead the team. You need to be the guy. You need to find your passing game and not just a trick play on a third and 1 and dump a ball off for a big gain. It's about being the starting quarterback. And I think that's that step Chris Streveler's trying to make right now.
TSN's Darren Bauming with us, TSN Winnipeg, and the CFL on CTV, CFL on TSN. Well, I'm going back a long ways for CFL on CTV. CFL on TSN's Claire Hanna here. But here's the thing about the Bombers. When I say that I do want them to win and have success, if you're going to be the best team in the CFL, and I don't mean piddly little power rankings in June or September, I'm talking about lifting the trophy. At the end of the year, you need to be able to withstand stuff like what they're going through right now. And I'm talking about maybe you lose your quarterback for a couple of games. Maybe you lose a Jackson Jeffcoat, who's like this morning they asked me on your station, who's the better D-line, the Riders or the Bombers? I'm like, well, when healthy, you might have an argument.
Yeah.
But tomorrow, it's not even close. It's the Riders. And let's not even talk about the investment financially at Micah Johnson at $250 and Charleston Hughes and what team. Zach Evans is making a lot of money. It's Saskatchewan by a mile. But my point is, if you're going to be the best, you got to beat the best. So Calgary hasn't even beaten Calgary yet. Winnipeg hasn't beaten Calgary yet. Sorry, craziness in the back of the room here. So they got a lot to prove still. But they know it. They do know it.
I think so. I think Saskatchewan and Winnipeg are the two best teams in the league. Hamilton has shown a lot. But again, it's when healthy. It's when you don't have to face that adversity. In Winnipeg, the conversation under Mike O'Shea has always been about reaching that zenith of your level of play at the right time. Not doing it in June, not doing it in September, doing it in the first, second, and third week of November, and ultimately winning that game on the last Sunday in November. Winnipeg hasn't been there. They've always kind of fizzled down the stretch. It's been injuries to Matt Nichols. It's been wear and tear on Andrew Harris and critical players in the defense. That's why I say it's good that they're facing that adversity now. But to bring Saskatchewan into the dialogue, I think similarly, getting Micah Johnson back showed that they have a very, very good defensive line, and I love the work that they did. And okay, we're going to let an impact absolute freak of nature in Willie Jefferson go because we have faith in AC Leonard, and he is a heck of a defensive end. You pair him with Charleston Hughes, you put a force of nature in Micah Johnson in the middle, and I'm really impressed with that defensive system. Losing Sam McGuavin, I thought was maybe the bigger hit the Rough Riders defense took, but all credit to Jason Shivers. He sure kind of carried that Chris Jones DNA through.
Did he ever? And by the way, this is an interactive show. I'm enjoying the Facebook wall. You guys have been ensconced in conversation. You haven't really been able to see this.
Well, I've kind of been looking at it.
There's some good ones here.
Yeah.
Andre writes in and says, Winnipeg fans are the equivalent of Philadelphia fans in Canada. By and large, the most obnoxious I've ever encountered. And I used to live there. I'd like to get into that a little bit. Do you think Rider fans aren't obnoxious?
I'm
like some of them.
Look at yourselves in the mirror.
Right.
Okay. Like, we might be saying that here, but Rider fans are everywhere in the CFL, coming out in droves. They wear Rider jerseys when their team isn't even playing. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I would say there's definitely some obnoxiousness.
There are idiot fans in every fan base. So, because I've heard the Philly fan thing about the Riders. Well, actually, what I heard, it was Paul Friesen who wrote this in the Winnipeg Sun, that the New York Yankees send their fans to Saskatchewan for training. And then they go to New York. So, hey, the Bombers and Riders both have great fans. But the other thing I want to talk about is the 35th anniversary of TSN. I saw how grateful you are to be part of this anniversary.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about, I saw. I'm always watching. Yeah. Some would say creeping. Always watching.
Creeping.
And Darren Bauming, I want to talk about the Jets versus Bombers landscape in Winnipeg, too, as camps are firing up.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.